Hey, it's Chris. So let's go over the last 2 months, October and November. I've done the crowdfunding side of things, but what have I acquired in that time? What have I actually been playing? I mean, you've seen reviews pop up, you've seen content come along those thoughts and those ways, but let's talk about, okay, where are things at behind the scenes? What else am I doing? And then what else is going on currently in December? Because December, I'll tell you right now, is already better than October and November in terms of just what I've played and how much I've played. So let's do this. Let's just go right into it. Again, sort of doing 2 months at once here. And I've played some very good pedigreed stuff in terms of just quality games, right? October, we had Role Player Adventure, Star Wars The Clone Wars, the pandemic version, Harrow County, Cube Monster, Die of the Dead, and Empty Throne, Helionox Chronicles, and Village Rails. So a wide variety right there. Of those games, probably I played the most, obviously, of Role Player Adventures because I got through that, and that was just massive. That was by far the best quantity wise. But if I had to pick a top 3 of those games right now, of games I want to replay right now, surprisingly on this list, I'd probably have to say Star Wars The Clone Wars. Pandemic-esque style Star Wars on top of it, and it just works. It's a very fun cooperative game. I think it's better than the World of Warcraft version. I think it's better than a lot of the other generic ones. I would prefer it over Rome or Cthulhu or Rising Tide. Not Iberia. Iberia is still above it for me in that sense, but it's probably second only to Iberia right now from that aspect. Then, in terms of ease to get to the table, probably the second best game of the month was Village Rails. Because I can see my wife and I playing this game a lot. Because it plays fluidly, it plays smoothly, it's a little bit difficult, it's a little tricky, it's also super easy. In terms of knowing what you're doing versus being able to just play it. And so I think that has been a real winner from Osprey Games as well. And, for the price point that it is, I can't argue that you shouldn't pick up or think about picking up a copy for yourself as well. Probably third behind that is sort of a 3A, 3B. I liked Role Player Adventures. The lack of replayability and the fact that I played it mostly solo was, how much of that do I need? Do I have? Do I play through a lot? Like, it just doesn't offer me as much repeated play. Probably after that is going to be right A, B, B, A, in some order, shape, or form. There is going to be Harrow County from Off the Page Games. When people get this, people are really going to like Harrow County. It's a fantastic 1 versus 1 asymmetric game in the line of Root, but much more accessible and much more similar but different. And so I think people are really going to like it for the same reasons they like Root, only more from a 2-player aspect of things. So as someone who can't get Root played, that's where things are at along those lines. Runners up, Cube Monster was good. I don't know if I would back it. I wasn't in love with it. It was good, but it wasn't one of those that I said, I absolutely need this in my collection. Same thing with an Empty Throne. I've got to figure out an Empty Throne still. I'm on the verge of either it's really good or it's meh. Which just sounds weird, but I'm going to have a review coming out in the near future of it from Button Shy because I got another one of their games as well in the mail. And so I'm going to have to figure out what to do with that aspect of things. So those are my thoughts on October so far. November was even more sparse. I only played 5 separate games in November. And they were, surprisingly, a few things you've seen on the channel. React, which is currently going on crowdfunding right now, killing it, over 100,000. Soul, Last Days of the Star, as well, over $100,000. Tabriz, broke $100,000, seeing a trend here. Unconscious Mind, which, over $1 million. And then one that you've never heard of called Bagchow. So which one of these is not like the other? But we'll talk about all of these really quickly. Unconscious Mind, it's going to be on some people's lists as a game of the year for 2023. It's probably not going to be my game of the year, but it's going to be a game that I'm going to be happy to have in my collection as something a little bit heavier. Because it was very accessible, it was very puzzly, but in a very pleasing manner, especially with those dual-natured cards. I really like that aspect. I like the aspects of the flowing together. We'll see what the end point is, but I mean, that was a lot of the conversation with a couple of these games on the crowdfunding page. Like, this is a game of the... And it may be. I'm not a good evaluation from that standpoint. I just know for me personally, some of these others are going to be bigger. Soul, Last Days of the Star. I think it's an absolutely fantastic game. I know why people have been seeking out it on the secondary market for years now. At the same time, I said this to them when they were corresponding back and forth from my video went live, like, this is a great game. With my group, this is not always going to be the best game. Just because of the dynamics there. But it's also a game where I recognize excellence, right? You recognize when things are excellent, even if it's not always for you. And that is Sol for my group. And it's one of those games where I think I'd have to be in the right mood to probably play it. Not in a bad way, but like, it's not a game that, because of the nature of it, because of sometimes the length at the higher player counts, that I'm going to want to play all the time, because it is up here. It is more up here. It's deceptively simple appearing, but there's a lot going on that you're having to account for and interact with, and how you're going to, and when you're and so there's a lot going on there that more than meets the eye. And you know what? I mean, if you're like me, if you have more of this lighter cooperative style of things where you're playing games or trying to play a couple games in a 2.5 hour time frame once a week, twice a month, with a group, that may not be always what's on board or what's most appealing from that aspect of things. And so that's why, you know, it's fits well in the collection, but it's not going to be a game, just like Concordia isn't going to be something that's going to be hitting the table with relative frequency. And that's okay, but it's an excellent game. React is a very clever game. As someone who loves Exceed, as someone who loves Sakura Arms, as someone who kind of is okay with BattleCon, I really like this. I probably like this more than Ivion, to be frank with you. I like the manipulation on the board of moving things around more so than I did even on Ivion, even though Ivion is probably a little bit more accessible for someone like my wife. I would say that she probably liked Ivion more than React. She did not like the spatial elements and the triggering of the combos and the interrupts of, you know, the reverse turn order that React is, as opposed to me. Like, I really like that. Will it replace Exceed or Sakura Arms for me? Probably not, just because one, I don't think it needs to be replacing them. I think it's doing something completely separate. But then two, I think it's just gonna be one that's a little bit harder to hit to the table, even though I could make the argument that the dynamic of getting it played is actually relatively easier, because you only have so many cards, 4 different types of cards that you're playing. So that actually makes it a lot easier than the 10 or 20 cards that you may end up in different sets or combinations thereof in Sakura Arms or Exceed. So that's the benefit of it over the other stuff. And plus, those acrylic standees are freaking amazing. Just putting that out there. They're expensive, I know, but they're amazing. Tabriz is a very solid, lighter weight in the line of Cascadia engine builders. I know that some of you guys commented as well on my review that Tabriz was, okay, should I pick it up now for $85? And I'd say, yeah, you know what? If you don't need those deluxeifications, pick it up at retail. It's a great game. You should be on your radar from that aspect of things. A lot of people are going to be very, very happy again with that game. That's probably, of all of these, the one that would be easiest to hit my table on a regular basis by far and away. So that would be probably number 1 of this month from that aspect. The last one I mentioned, Bag Chal, is this 2-player tigers versus sheep. I can't remember. I always mess that up. And so you have this diagram and you have 4 tigers and you have to like hopscotch checkers over a goat to capture it. And if you get 4 goats, you win. But you basically flood the whole board with these creatures. And so the tigers get slowly pinched off and can't move. And so if you can trap all the tigers, or if they get 4 of the goats or sheep, then that side wins. But it seems like it's an ancient game and they redid this. And again, it was delivered in a couple months and it was like $5 or something, or $10 or whatever. And so it's a great abstract game, but I'm not sure, it just balance wise, it just seems off. Like it seems really, really hard for the tigers to win when me and my wife played it a couple times. And that's a little off-putting, like as an abstract game, if one side is significant. Like if it's 55-45, you know, something like that, 60-40 even. I mean, this seems like more like 70-30. And again, maybe we're just not good at the game and we've only played it, you know, a handful of times. So it just both felt like to us that one side was just dramatically much, much easier to manipulate the board with. So that was a little bit of a letdown because I was expecting that to be more enticing. So what else has arrived? Well, if you haven't paid attention in the background here, this is not like a light shade or anything else like this. This is the Aeon Trespass Odyssey box. And so I'm not sure if my review or my early impressions based on the game of what I've played so far is going to be up before or after this video. But I'll tell you right now, spoilers, it's freaking amazing. It's probably one of the best games I've played all year. It's probably going to be a lot of people's top 10 lists this year, but maybe even next year if they didn't get a copy. So that's something there. Frosthaven, I've played. The other games I've gotten at this point, I also got within about a 1 week span. I also got Frosthaven as well. So I've barely touched Frosthaven, and the embargo is supposed to be lifted on that very soon, probably about the time this video airs. So you're going to see that pop up all over the place with the big content people that got pre-copies before everyone else, so they could play like half of it before anyone else even got their copies. So I would expect that you're going to see that being really hyped, along with the other recent one that I haven't touched a bit of, Oathsworn. I've got that sitting as well. So I mean, like, I've got tons of stuff to go through, but if it tells you something, I have all three of them sitting, and I've been playing the majority, or what's hooked me has been Aeon Trespass Odyssey, even though I played a scenario. Actually, I played 2 scenarios of Frosthaven before I even got into Aeon Trespass Odyssey, and I've been with Aeon Trespass Odyssey since then. Just putting that out there. Not saying Frosthaven isn't good, and not saying it's going to be amazing, but what hooked me and what was able to get to the table and what was easier to flow through and what was easier to understand and grip, especially as entering in newer, was this, not Frosthaven. So take that for what you will. It's going to be an interesting comparison with Oathsworn, though, with Aeon Trespass Odyssey as well, from that aspect. And I like the way Aeon Trespass Odyssey has already done things, more so than I liked in my prototype of Kingdoms Forlorn. I'll tell you right now. Some of the aspects, there's some overlap, but I like some of the things better having played this than some of the things I liked narrative-wise and back and forth, big picture, battle picture in Kingdoms Forlorn. So I like the combat, I like the narrative better in this than I did Kingdoms Forlorn, which is kind of weird because I feel like that there was the evolution of it. So I'm very happy with what I've got already from that aspect. What else have I gotten? I'm not sure. Again, before or after this video will air, I have King of Monster Island. I also got Mists over Carcassonne. I did Splendor Duel already, the review of that. I'll tell you right now, 2 of those 3 are amazing games. And the other one is King of Monster Island, which if you've watched this channel at all, you know that I am a freaking big fan of. You know, I'll pull it up right here for a second so you can see it. But I mean, it's cooperative, more like Pandemic meets King of Tokyo. That's what it is. And there's 1 or 2 elements that I don't think fully click and fully work, which makes me hesitate to say it's an excellent game, but I think it's a very good game for the nature of what I'm looking for in that sense. It was a little bit too puzzly, but it's also just very good because there's a couple levels of difficulty and you get 3 enemies that you fight against. So yeah, my review will be coming out shortly around this time this week or next week. So full thoughts on that as well, but very happy overall, but just not as high as I thought this would be. Like I want to play this all the time, sort of like the Loop. It's not up there for me in terms of that. Oh, speaking of that, I'll just go right into it. I completely forgot. I got the latest expansion for the Loop. I don't know where that went. That was around here somewhere. The Fur Brigade, which again is a freaking amazing expansion. Small box. Just have a brief video out here in the next week or 2 as well. 2 new characters, some extra cards, a little bit of extra mechanic as well. 2 new mechanics that come with these new characters. So very pleased from that aspect as well. Bought it at retail straight from Pandasaurus. So I got one of the first copies that came out and very, very happy with that. And then the other 2 games that I mentioned, right? Like Mists over Carcassonne. This is, when my review comes out of this is glowing. I cannot speak highly of this enough. If you are watching this one when Z-Man, they've picked it up for like a January, I think, maybe release in the North America, pick it up. It's an absolutely fantastic cooperative game. It's hard. It's very hard. And it's hard in a good way that you still have a chance, but you also, you know, aren't going to win by any chance or level or aspect every time, because there's 6 different difficulties you can play on for putting ghosts on a Carcassonne tiles, right? That sounds simple. That sounds straightforward. It's probably going to be easily in my top 10 of the year. I'll tell you that right now. Same thing with Splendor Duel. I wasn't expecting this to be as good as it is. My wife and I both love this. If you took Splendor out of the title, if you just want an amazing 2-player game, this is really what you need to pick up, because it uses elements from Splendor, but I think it's much better than the individual parts may make you think. And I have no qualms about saying it's going to be that high and that good. So that's what else I've got going on. I picked up a couple decks of Marvel Champions. I picked up Wolverine, Cyclops, and Phoenix for Marvel Champions as well, even though I never talk about that game on the channel. And then I also picked up Heat, Pedal to the Metal, and I haven't had a chance to play that. I also have, in the meantime, need to play Fall of the Mountain King, and I need to play Wonderland's War before the end of the year. So that's sort of what's on my plate in terms of where things are at. Oh, yeah, Endless Winter is sitting up here too. So those are like the 3 or 4 games that I need to get to the table in the last 2.5 weeks or so of this month. Endless Winter, Fall of the Mountain King, Wonderland's War, those are probably at the top of my list to be able, and Heat, Pedal to the Metal. Probably the top 4 that I need to play before the end of the year so I can have some thoughts on them, maybe get out a review or two as well. So I'm trying to think. I mean, I'd love to get Dwellings of Elderville played and, play some more Sakura Arms and play some more Jagged Earth on Spirit Island, but that's really kind of where things are at and what I'm in love with right now and what I've acquired, and as a whole, where things are at with the channel and what I'm playing. So hopefully that's interesting. Hopefully that's entertaining. Oh, and a little spoiler here at the end. You know what? If you haven't seen Aeon Trespass Odyssey, this is a boss. I'm just going to leave you with this. It's freaking massive. It is hugely, not even grotesque, but these are like maze puzzle pieces on the side there. I'll leave it with that if you're familiar with Greek lore at all. So there you go. October, November, and a little bit of December roundup in terms of where things are at, what I'm playing, what I've enjoyed, and my brief thoughts on them. I ramble too long. I, soliloquy too long, and I love it because you guys love it. Oh, by the way, for those that are still tuning around the end here, there's going to be a giveaway on this channel before the end of the year. Maybe even a little extra if we can hit 7K. Tell your friends. Stay classy. Or maybe don't tell your friends. Maybe I'll give more if we hit 7K. 10K by the end of the year. No, that'd be amazing. I'd give someone like a copy of Frosthaven or something if we hit 10K by the end of the year. I'm going to get myself in trouble if I say anything else. Peace out. Stay classy. See you around.